Why are today's cruise ships becoming so gigantic? It's not just Royal Caribbean leading the charge with megaships. Even lines once defined by small ship luxury like Silversea and Seabourn are quietly joining the size race. Holland America, which once promoted itself as a mid-sized line with fewer than 1,500 guests, is now launching vessels that carry over 2,600 passengers. So what's really driving this wave of massive shipbuilding? And is it truly the inevitable future of ocean travel? Let's find out on today's episode of Cruise Now.
But before we dive into the main topic, don't forget to hit that subscribe button to help me reach my first milestone of 2,000 subscribers, and like if you find the video useful. It really means a lot and gives me the motivation to keep improving both the content and video editing. Thank you so much. Who could forget last year's viral image of a cruise ship's stern that looked like an oversized birthday cake? Its decks were flashy and cartoonish, with spiraling water slides, turquoise pools, and neon decorations that left many people wondering how it could even float. And if you thought the noise and excitement back in January 2024, when Royal Caribbean launched the world's largest cruise ship, the 1,196-foot-long Icon of the Seas, would be the last time you heard about mega cruise ships for a while, think again. The phrase bigger is better is still the mantra of the world's largest cruise lines, including Royal Caribbean, MSC Cruises, Carnival Cruise Line, and Norwegian Cruise Line, as one massive vessel after another rolls out of the shipyards and into the oceans. Just this year, we're seeing a wave of ships that are not only enormous in real-world scale, but in many cases even larger than their sister ships that came before them. In late April, Norwegian Cruise Line's newest ship, Norwegian Aqua, began sailing from Port Canaveral, Florida. With a capacity for 3,600 passengers, it carries 10% more than other Prima-class vessels. Norwegian has already ordered 4 even larger ships, each designed to carry 5,000 passengers, set for delivery by 2030, with additional Prima-class ships joining the fleet in the meantime. Also in April, MSC Cruises introduced its second-largest ship, following the Mediterranean-based MSC World Europa. The new MSC World America can accommodate 6,762 passengers and stretches 330 meters in length. It debuted from the MSC Miami Cruise Terminal, the largest cruise terminal in North America, which can process up to 36,000 passengers per day across 3 ships. 2 more MSC World-class vessels are already scheduled: MSC World Asia in 2026, sailing the Mediterranean, and MSC World Atlantic in 2027, serving the Caribbean from Port Canaveral. Carnival Cruise Line is planning its biggest ships ever, with the first of 3 mega vessels launching in 2029. Each will feature over 3,000 cabins and a maximum capacity approaching 8,000 passengers. Meanwhile, this August, the sister ship to Icon of the Seas, the 7,600-passenger Star of the Seas, will begin sailing year-round 7-night Caribbean itineraries from Port Canaveral. Like her sister, she will boast a maximum capacity of 7,600 guests and feature 20 spectacular decks packed with water slides, water parks, 7 pools, and 40 dining venues. And Royal Caribbean isn't stopping there. In 2026, the 3rd Icon-class ship, Legend of the Seas, is set to debut from Fort Lauderdale. A 4th, yet-to-be-named vessel is already scheduled for delivery in 2027. So the first reason people usually point to for the ever-growing size of cruise ships is economies of scale. That's true, at least partly. Larger ships generally have lower operating costs per passenger, and the cost of construction per berth is also cheaper at certain European shipyards that specialize in building cruise vessels. But if we look at the airline industry, chasing the lowest cost per seat hasn't always worked out. Take the Airbus A380, for example, a massive failure. Even the Boeing 747 has now been discontinued. The problem is that a low per-seat cost only matters if the airline can consistently sell all those seats at a reasonable price. That works only for a handful of carriers with ultra-dense networks and huge passenger demand, like Emirates. For most airlines, 500 seats are simply too many to fill profitably, even though overall global air travel is growing. In reality, passengers are willing to pay extra for flight frequency, say flying at exactly 10 a.m., and for non-stop routes, avoiding connections. These 2 factors push airlines to operate more flights with smaller planes. The success of the Boeing 787, which carries only about half as many passengers as the A380, proves the point. Profitability per seat matters more than low cost per seat. The same dynamic applies to the cruise industry. Luxury lines tend to favor smaller ships, not only for service and amenities, but also because they can access destinations larger ships simply can't reach. They accept higher per-passenger costs because their target market is willing to pay more. In addition, the cruise ship market is heating up, with competition becoming increasingly intense. According to the Cruise Lines International Association, CLIA, more than 37 million passengers are expected to cruise in 2025. A CLIA spokesperson noted that the global cruise ship order book now extends through 2036, with 77 new ships scheduled for delivery. This massive number highlights how ocean travel is becoming a major opportunity for providers seeking to capture market share by offering unique travel experiences. Jerry Roper, chief digital architect at Deloitte Digital, which analyzes travel industry trends, said, "Larger ships are seeing considerable increases in occupancy, and the newer experience is a draw for customers. The market is shifting from simply cruising to integrated experiences, with many examples of cruise lines investing in exclusive and all-encompassing offerings, such as Royal Caribbean's private island Perfect Day at Coco Cay and MSC's Ocean Cay Marine Reserve, that expand the cruise experience beyond the ship itself," Roper explained. For example, Carnival Cruise Line recently launched its new cruise port destination, Celebration Key, on the southern end of Grand Bahama Island. Another surprising driver behind the push for bigger cruise ships is sustainability. The International Maritime Organization, IMO, has pledged to bring global shipping to net zero emissions by 2050, while also cutting carbon intensity, emissions per unit of transport. Cruise lines have committed to these targets, and one of the simplest ways to meet interim carbon goals is to build larger, more efficient ships. Alternative fuels are also becoming a big factor. Since cruise ships can last more than 30 years, the ships built today will still be sailing long after 2050. That means they must be ready to adapt to future fuels. Right now, no clear path to full decarbonization exists, but shipbuilders are preparing for a mix of solutions. Gas fuels like LNG or hydrogen, liquid fuels like methanol or ammonia, and even batteries. Most of these fuels still require carbon-based inputs today, but the hope is that carbon-neutral versions will be available in the coming decades. The challenge is that these fuels take up far more space than traditional diesel. For example, methanol requires double the storage volume of diesel, while hydrogen needs even more. This is why shipyards are designing new vessels with fuel flexibility in mind, building special tanks now or leaving room for them later. As ships get larger, the proportion of space devoted to engines and fuel storage actually shrinks, which makes the size increase worthwhile. That's why when Carnival introduced its first LNG-powered ship, it was also the largest ship the company had ever built. LNG tanks and ventilation systems take up enormous space, so for the ship to still be commercially viable, it had to be very big.